Not as an author, but as an inspiration to share my story. It was actually Selena Gomez. I felt that her courage and strength to be vulnerable with the world was something that I could do as well. Because I'm sure that her story of traumatic experiences has helped many people seek help and kind of find that relief. So that's kind of why I'm doing it as well. Hopefully I can work with her and, one day and donate a percentage of my proceeds to the Rare Impact Fund, which is her youth mental health services charity.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Living the Next Chapter. I have an author with me today, and I love talking to authors. Authors are amazing, and they are the best people in the entire world, and Taylor is one of them. Welcome, Taylor, to Living the Next Chapter. So glad to have you here.
Thank you. It's incredibly humbling to be here.
It's great. Okay, Taylor, tell everybody where you are in this big world of ours.
I am located in Texas, San Antonio, on the outskirts of San Antonio, to be more precise. I live out in the country, so it's very quiet out there. I love it.
Nice. Is that where you were born and raised?
San Antonio, yes, sir.
Nice. Awesome. Okay, Taylor, we want to jump right in right away. Tell us about your author journey. I'm sure there was a point in your life when you weren't an author and you hadn't written anything, and now you are. So something happened. Can you kind of take us back to the beginning a little bit, share a little bit about how all this started for you, how you became an author?
Absolutely. So growing up with parents who are hot and cold, you don't really know which side of the parent you're going to get. It kind of helped me develop a silver tongue, so to speak, where I can navigate through creating, appeasing conversation. So after I graduated high school, it took me about, 2021. I had so much trauma I went through, but I went to a behavioral health hospital and I saw everybody who was broken, beaten, and bruised and felt that way, the same as I did. And we were given a topic, or we were given a group therapy session to write things for 10 minutes. And I just started writing the beginning of my book, filling it with as all the trauma that I went through so that I can help other people, heal and show them that they're not alone. So that's really where I got started in my author journey, is just developing a love for words and using that the way that I talk to parents, or, the hot and cold parent, was something that I kind of put into my ability to write and just kind of let it flow, if you will.
It's good. Did you have anybody that inspired you as an author, somebody you looked up to?
Not as an author, but as an inspiration to share my story. It was actually Selena Gomez.
Really?
I felt that her courage and, strength to be vulnerable with the world was something that I could do as well. Because I'm sure that her story of traumatic experiences has helped many people seek help and kind of find that relief. So that's kind of why I'm doing it as well. Hopefully I can work with her and, one day and donate a percentage of my proceeds to the Rare Impact Fund, which is her youth mental health services charity.
Okay, so let's both assume and hope and dream that Selena's going to hear this podcast and hear you talking about this. Any messages specific to Selena that you'd like her to hear from you?
I think that it's funny. I think she is an angel in this world that we don't deserve, but desperately need.
Wow. And the one thing too is when you live with trauma and you're not in the spotlight, that's one thing. But when you live with trauma in the spotlight, where you have cameras and people documenting every move you make, and you're living under this microscope of media, that's got to be another level that she had to power through to survive and to then turn that around to help other people. That's a very special person, I think, to do all
Absolutely.
that, right?
Yeah. And then to use her megaphone or her,
Yeah.
social influence to direct, focus to ending the stigma of mental health was something that I just resonated with and was inspired by. So, a lot of my main character is going to go through everything that I went through. And hopefully I can give her, my main character is a woman, um, the relationships with certain individuals that I never got to have. Right. So to navigate that and give her what I've always wanted is going to be something that I am going to heal through, I think.
Okay, so Taylor, tell us the name of your book.
It's Kayla Find Me, an enlightenment series. It's actually right here.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank
Okay, so
you.
tell us more about Kayla, the main character. What do we need to know about Kayla?
Kayla is half angel, half human. So she feels emotions so much more deeply, than any human. It manifests a demon or a situation to, grow within her mind like a seed, but it continues to be watered and it becomes something that manifests into reality. And she is dealing with all this turmoil. She's, finding new powers each time she makes a step forward that she's going to have to master and practice before she can do it on command. But, when she deals with the internal emotion, then the demon or situation can be rectified and conquered, by her. But up until that point, it's just she's spiraling down into the mental, you know, trauma of everything in order to push through it and feel through those emotions.
I'm getting a little sense that there's a connection between Kayla and Selena. Is there any connection there at
No,
all? Nothing?
no, no, not at all. Um,
Okay.
no, but that's a good point. I mean, she, I guess you could say that she looks like her, but that was done without any planning on that sort.
Just going back to your definition of how you define Selena, kind of an angel here on earth and who she was, I'm like, okay, well, there seems to be a little bit going on there. As you described Kayla, I'm like, oh, there's a couple words that seem to be the similar between the two. So,
Similar but not related.
yeah, good. Awesome. So take us through the world where we find Kayla, like kind of give us the background about where the story is set as well.
The story is set in the United States, um, and while it's very vague on where she is on the United States or in the United States, I know she does make a, a an appearance in a different country. Um, but as far as that, it's her journey of figuring out who she is and where she fits in the world. But she's constantly popping in between places with one of her abilities that she kind of finds out about at the beginning of the second chapter.
Okay. And as a new author, Taylor, like what kind of things were difficult for you? We have authors listening to the show. What was kind of difficult for you during the writing process where you felt it challenging or you had to like learn new skills or ways to adapt as a writer? Do you have any examples of that from the journey of writing your book?
Yeah. So one of the difficulties or challenges that I had was not planning properly.
Hmm.
I just sat down and wrote with stream of consciousness. So stream of consciousness for those listening is basically anything that pops into your head along the storyline you throw in. That got me in a little bit of trouble moving forward because now I added some things in the first novel that I have to figure out how I'm going to utilize in the coming series. But I'm working on that pretty hard. Um, and then you know because I wrote stream of consciousness, I described characters and I never wrote those character descriptions down. So now I'm having to go back and rewrite those so that I can maintain consistency. I remember one time I was writing the second half of a scene, right? So she entered the scene before and I described it, and then I had to re-describe it a little bit for later on in the book. So I had to go back and read what I wrote in that scene and how I described it because of the lack of documentation on the planning of what the setting was like.
That's a good point. That's a really good point to have a plan and work through your plan. I think there's a lot of people that could probably benefit just from hearing that. That's great, Taylor. So as we gonna go through the process of writing the book, uh, any thoughts around just world building and things like that? Is that something that came easy for you to kind of craft this world around Kayla?
Um, yes and no. The reason why I put the book, the world so vague in the first part was because I didn't want to limit myself to where I could go within the world, right? So if I, name if I put a city in there, but I don't name the city, it could be any city that I could come back to and create a world out of or around. Um, the only place that I really put um, a name to the setting was right around the second and third chapter in that different country that she ends up in. Um, but as far as because she's an angel and half angel, I'm gonna have to describe multiple planes, you know, uh, heavenly plane, earthly plane, so on and so forth, as well as pocket dimensions and, certain areas that she can go outside of this world, the physical world and the supernatural world that can just be her place to find comfort, knowledge, peace, and learn how to adapt to situations.
Love it. Okay, so Taylor, if you were able to, if I got up for a moment, just walked out of the room here, and Kayla came and sat down in front of you on camera, your main character, and you were able to talk to her and ask her a question, what do you not know about Kayla that you would love to ask her if she sat there in front of you? What kind of question would you ask her?
Ooh, question. That's a good point. I think I would ask her why why do you think that you don't have value in the world? Why do you think that your value is so immeasurable or so minuscule that you don't have the difference to make an impact, or you don't have the ability to make an impact?
Hmm.
Why do you think that you are so quote unquote insignificant in the world when you have the ability to do great things?
I like that. And I think that's somebody that a lot of people can resonate with that. They can identify with her in that feeling of not feeling worthy or who's going to listen to me or who cares what I think, right? And we wrestle with that so much, so
Absolutely.
many of us do.
Absolutely. And, that's why I make Kayla so relatable. So anybody that's been through trauma, anybody that's actually asked the question, who am I? Immediately on the first, second page, you already are invested because those are the questions she asks herself. It starts off with you not knowing anything about her, just the fact that she doesn't know who she is.
Hmm. So Taylor, who would this book be for? Like if I was thinking of my family and my friends and I want to buy them a book and I want to know kind of like who would you say that this book would be perfect for?
Well, that's quite interesting. Anybody that's gone through trauma, any form of trauma that feels that they need an escape from their own personal reality or personal hell, whatever you want to call it, where things are just feeling insurmountable and you can't fix them. Um, but that's not true, right? So it's anybody who doesn't know how to get through their emotional traumatic experience. So I'm putting healthy coping mechanisms in there with very subtly. So anybody that, reads them can say, I wonder if that worked during a specific part of anxiety, grounding technique, um, the safe, secure place, the container method, all these things that I'm putting in are actual therapy devices used to help people cope.
So it's kind of like a how-to manual in a little bit, right? You're getting some actual real practical things that you can put into place as you identify with the character, and you're like, I feel like Kayla is me, and I'm Kayla, and well, maybe I can try some of the things you're suggesting in the
Absolutely.
novel. That's going to help. You talked about the fact that this is a series, so I'm curious how far out have you thought into the future? Do you have an idea of how many books would be in the series at this point?
So I'm going to say about in between 6 to 7 books.
Wow. Okay.
And I know exactly how it's going to end. I know the exact last paragraph that I'm going to put in it. Um,
Nice.
and that's going to spawn the following series to this one, following the very last character that I introduced in this series.
You're a very well thought out person to be able to see that far in the future. You have a lot of writing ahead of you, don't you?
Yeah, yeah. Each book is going to tackle a big thing, a big traumatic response and traumatic event. I'm working with the Children's Bereavement Center of South Texas. I volunteer there on Sundays. And I pledge to donate 5% of my proceeds to them every calendar quarter. Um, but even some of the therapists have read my first book and they're like, while we can't add it to your curriculum, it's very, very realistic and it does not hold back when it comes to dealing with traumatic events. So that's why after I thought about it, because I should have thought about it before, I put a disclaimer in the front within the first couple pages, and I also put mental health resources like the National Suicide Hotline, the texting number, the call number, domestic violence hotline, child abuse hotline, sexual assault hotline, and then LGBTQ plus resources for the transgender hotline and the Trevor Project hotline.
Amazing. Amazing.
So yeah, so if they don't
Yeah.
have access to it or they're afraid to, um, you know, use the computer to do it, or they don't have access for whatever reason, they have access in my book.
I love that you included that, Taylor. That's again, we could talk. I mentioned it's like a manual, but this is a novel that can save somebody's life.
You
Really.
know, yeah, when I'm writing this, as I'm writing this series, having all the monetary, social, success. I mean, yeah, that's great. But if one person, just one person were to come up to me and say, Taylor, I was on the verge of ending my life and, somebody gave me your book or I picked up your book and it gave me what I needed to continue forward and your book saved my life. Just one person were to do that, it would mean more to me and that would mean the ultimate level of success for the series. And that's why it's being written.
Great perspective, Taylor. I think, oh, I think we could use a lot more Taylors in the world if everybody thought that way. That's amazing. And you're going to help way more than one person with this. I can tell you that. Any feedback coming back to you so far about the book?
One negative feedback, but that was not something that I dwell on.
Yeah.
I was writing I had written the first 4 pages, and my buddy at the time, I just wrote the first 4 pages, and he read it, and he read all of Harry Potter, all of Tolkien, and he goes, based on the first 4 pages, you are more descriptive than Tolkien without being overly descriptive, and you have written it better than Harry Potter.
Wow.
That's something that I take pride in, as well as, one of my friends read the first chapter, and in the first chapter, she goes to an orange orchard, and my friend is a very big reader, and she goes, never in a book have I ever smelt something by reading it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I tried to write every chapter. I tried to end every chapter on a cliffhanger, which I successfully did, including the last book or the last chapter, which I know that some people are going to throw their novel across the room because it's such a bad cliffhanger. But yeah, there was a lot of things that I learned writing my first novel that I have to adjust and apply in my second novel. Character creation, planned writing, preparation, the outline creation, scene development, beginning, middle, and end, just writing a very vague description about that and then filling it in. Using character and setting scenes like sheets, like writing them down. For example, I have some right here that I printed out, and based on the program that I use, they go in depth so much that I didn't even think about what it all takes to build a character, right? So it's character name, age, location, their role in the story, the goal for this character, physical description, personality, occupation, habits, mannerisms, background, internal, external conflict. That's just for one character. And then note. And then the scene, you're going to put the name of the scene, the location where it's at, the role in story, what characters are in it, the season, the unique features, the descriptions, the sight, sound, smell, and note. Which brings me to my next point is like when I'm writing, my novels, or when I'm writing a scene, I don't just stop at, the sounds, smells, and sight. I go for the taste of what's in the air. I go for the, the feel, what it feels like, what the wind is doing, like how the sunlight is crackling on the skin, providing that itch, that warmth. And I try and say things without saying them.
Hmm.
So I have an example, that I think I read to you in the preliminary, but I kind of want to read it again.
Yeah, please.
But she's flying, right? So this is in the third or fourth chapter, but she's flying, and she's flying fast. So she's flapping her wings, and she's got adrenaline running through her. But the paragraph goes, then comes the sound of one monstrous thunderclap in a cloud sky. And that line it's one of my favorites because it tells you exactly what happened in that moment without being boring, right?
Yeah.
So she broke the sound barrier, but I didn't have to say, well, then comes her breaking the sound barrier. That seems a little boring to me.
Yeah.
So when it's funny when I was trying to picture how that sound actually, what I could use for that sound, there's a scene from the Flash episode, one of the episodes on CW. It's the first time Barry ever breaks the barrier, but I played that about 6 to 7 times, and I tried to, figure out what else that sounded like so that I could describe it. So if I have a sound or a smell that I want to incorporate in the book, I'll go and find that smell, like oranges, right? So I'll
Yeah.
sniff an orange and, close my eyes and really concentrate on what that orange smelled like.
And that's why you got that response that they felt like they were in the orchard with the oranges. Makes
Right.
sense, right?
Right.
That's a gift, Taylor. That's a gift. That I don't know if they're going to teach you that in writing school on how to write a book. You have a gift that you're taking all of your curiosity and who you are as a person, pouring it into your book. And that's why your book is so unique and creative, is no one else could ever write your book, Taylor. There's no way.
Yeah, I went to San Antonio Startup Week last October, and they were telling me you got to use AI to write your book. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine and great, but it's not going to write the way that I want it told, right? So so that's the only thing that I would, caution against, is because, and then also if you use AI to write your book, some of them hold the copyrights on what they produce. So
Good
therefore,
point.
you would not get royalties, and you could get sued by Microsoft or whoever runs the AI
True.
program. So that's something that I don't want to mess with.
Do you find yourself in any of the characters in your book? Have you written yourself into the story here and there?
Kayla is me. I'm living vicariously through her. Um, that's why I wanted to give her some of the relationships that I never had, the bonds that I had with certain family.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I do know that, I'm going to take you to Game of Thrones real quick, but one of the best things that you can possibly do as a creator, author, entertainer, actor, whatever, is for actors, it's playing a character so well, playing a villain so well that everybody hates that villain, that want to that villain to die, right? Like, so Joffrey, that acting on that character by that actor was so well done that it made everybody hate him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when building a protagonist and an antagonist, you want the protagonist to be someone that people root for, that drive their passion to read and drive their need to see them succeed. And you have to write a antagonist, a villain that is so powerfully demented and dark that it creates that undying hatred and desire to see that villain killed, right? Where you just want to reach through the page and just kill the character by yourself. But that's, in my opinion, what make the experience so powerful. To really tug on those strings and have the antagonist do things to just ruthless things to the protagonist. But then again, like, if the antagonist didn't do that, how is the character, your hero, going to grow? Um, Character creation is one of the things that I'm having trouble with a little bit. Just because you have to create different characters with different personalities, different habits, backgrounds. And so you use real life examples, cut pieces and, from life stories that you've heard from family members or anybody that you have talked to, just cut pieces out of it and like combine like 4 different people's backgrounds into one. That's interesting to do that. And learn how to, because when I'm doing the character creation, it to think of many different habits, it's like overload because there's so many habits like biting your nails, clicking your tongue, clicking a pen when you're nervous, or tapping your foot. All those come to mind, grinding your teeth, right? So you have to look up habits too on the internet. And one of my biggest, resources is Google for thesauruses,
Hmm.
the thesaurus and dictionary. So when I'm writing, it's actually how I found one of my favorite words, salubrious. And I use that in my novel within the first chapter. But for those of you who don't know, salubrious is healthy, health giving. So the weather is very salubrious out today.
It's a great word.
Yeah, it is. I worked on that. I actually got it tattooed on my arm. In its saying, it goes, those who weather the storm of suffering obtain everlasting salubrious serenity.
Nice.
But yeah, it's amazing what you can do when you're like going through Google and it gives you all the synonyms and antonyms, or the synonyms, and you just click on different synonyms until you get to a word that you didn't know.
Yeah.
So, there's a couple quotes that I live by, and this is part of the reason why I'm doing it. I don't know if you've heard the quote by Mark Twain that says the 2 most important days in your life are the day you were born and the day you find out why.
It's great.
And then there's one by Banksy. It says, they say a person dies twice, once when they draw their last breath. I don't remember it word for word, but the other time is when somebody says their name for the very last time. So, and then, I was in high school, we were writing a prompt on heroes and, the character arc and, the hero's journey in
Yeah.
English and, English class. But I came up with a quote that I just find so much more profound, that just like one of the things that you coin and you're just like, that's gold, right? So it said, a person can be immortal through the legacy they leave behind, but a person with no legacy is soon to be forgotten. So this is my legacy. This is
Hmm.
what's going to leave my mark on the world and help people for years, generations to come. So that's another reason why I'm writing it.
It's amazing. It's great, Taylor. I love how focused in on you are on your writing. You know where you're headed. You're way planned out in the future. You know your story. You know your characters. You're learning, right? Like, I guess it's got to be tough to write the first one, but I think as you're writing and as this continues to grow for you, it's going to get to the point where your characters are going to be even more depth to them. The stories are going to become, you're going to get surprised at where the story takes you because you're along for the journey at the same time. So
Absolutely.
I'm excited to kind of see where this all lands for you in the future.
Yeah, I know. I want this to be the next Harry Potter series. Like, not obviously not, in the same genre, but I want it to be as big as the next Harry Potter because that means that I help a lot of people. But I do know that each book will end with the start of the next book, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, for example, the way book one ends, it, it goes in depth on the next traumatic event, right? So it stops and then the next book picks up within the next, right? The next traumatic
Yeah.
event. So book two will end and that will lead into her response to a specific traumatic event. So it's just kind of flowing, if that makes
Nice.
sense.
For those people that find your books in the future, they've got a lot of reading to do. If they have to go back to the beginning and follow along and see how all these things stack together.
Absolutely.
I love how you write, Taylor. This is great.
Thank you. So more on that is just like, you know, the second book, something's going to happen at the very end because I know exactly how book two is going to end. I know the exact last few lines and that's where I'm going. But that last few lines create the traumatic, you know what I mean? Like, and then that sparks the next book's entire theme and then so on and so forth that will lead. It's like, traveling through a journey, right? In its own right of traumatic experiences and conquering them.
Wow. So, okay, Taylor, before we jump off here in a few minutes, for those people that are listening and they have lived through some really tough days, they've dealt with things similar to what you have dealt with, maybe some things that are different than what you've dealt with, but they are really kind of struggling in life to find their place. Maybe they don't have the support that they want or need. Maybe they just feel lonely in all of their trauma. They just don't feel like anybody really gets them or understands what it's like. Can you kind of talk to them for a moment and just build them up and encourage them that there's something they're special and their story matters? Can you kind of just talk to them for a minute?
Absolutely. Um, you know, the quickest way through emotions or to get over emotions is through them, right? So as scary as it's going to be, there's a question and I'll ask you this to you is how far can you walk into a forest?
Yeah, you just keep going, right?
No, halfway before you're
Yeah,
walking out.
there you
So
go.
you only have to really get to halfway point where,
Nice.
before you're on your way out of that traumatic response. It honestly, I don't, for those who have been in high school and college, is that the teachers, the professors always tell you that if you have a question, ask it, because there might be someone else who has the same question who's afraid to ask it. So your traumatic experience, your experiences handling things or not knowing how to handle things, by voicing them, by asking for help, it creates a safe space for those who are going through it and can relate to you. So by speaking up, by being vulnerable, creating those meaningful connections and those connections that can help you, right, is it's something that can help others too. Um, there is strength in asking for help, because vulnerability takes an insane amount of strength, especially when you're not used to it, when you fear it, right? So one of the couple questions that I ever had for myself is, you know, what what takes the place of that pain, right? Because you find comfort in the pain that you're enduring, because it's the only thing you ever know. So what takes that place? And then because you've gone through it for so long, who are you going to be without it? And those two questions are scary within its own right, because it, navigating trauma without, coping skills is basically like being stranded in the middle of the ocean, knowing that you can read the stars, but you don't know how. And you got to find land on a little raft. And the wind and the hurricanes keep coming, and you just want to give up. But, you know, don't give up, because in my personal philosophy, and the reason that I got my tattoo was because if we are meant to go through things, if we are subject to experiences that were not our fault, that we didn't ask for and we had no control over, after we get on the other side of that, there has to be something. There has to be peace. We come to many different destinations throughout life, and this is one of the things that there's two quotes that I want to leave with, both mine. And the destination is as sweet, salubrious, and amazing as the journey was treacherous, daunting, and dangerous. And then the other one is, this is one that I like a lot, is oftentimes in our darkest moment, a single ray of hope shines its brightest, or let me see. Oftentimes in our darkest moment, a single ray of hope in the face of adversity shines its brightest.
Nice. Taylor, this is really good stuff. I'm so happy that you've written this and that you have so many more to write. I can't imagine writing that much into the future and knowing a path is out in front of you. Something special is guiding you, and I know you're going to help a lot of great people just by sharing your story and helping us kind of find our peace in Kayla's story and beyond. So thank you for writing these.
Thank you for recognizing that, and thank you for having me on. It's been humbling and incredibly honoring.
It's great to have you here, Taylor. Okay, so as far as where the books are going to be available, how to get in touch with you if people have questions for you, they want to meet you or talk about your books, where do we find you and where can we buy the books?
So the books are on Amazon, barnesandnobles.com and writersrepublic.com. That's the publishing company. My Instagram is at an enlightenment series. I believe I've created a Discord for a mental health community within, so the link is there. But yeah, so you can reach out to me there. I do have a website. It's called officialtaylorduran.com. It has all the links to every single, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and Writers Republic. It has a contact me page that goes directly to my personal email. So if anybody wants to reach out, they can reach out to me on Instagram. I'm mainly on Instagram. I'm a little bit on TikTok and through the official website.
Awesome. Great to have you here, Taylor. Keep us in mind as you keep writing. how about come back in the future and give us some updates as some of your other works come out in the future? Would you come back?
Absolutely. 100%.
I love it. I love it. Okay, everyone, Taylor Duran on the podcast. Make sure you go check out all the show notes. All the information will be there to connect with Taylor. When you buy Taylor's books, please leave an amazing review, because we want as many people as possible to buy these books, find hope in these great stories, and help somebody. Because, again, these are books that can save someone's life. So, Taylor, keep writing. Don't stop. Okay?
You got it.
Hey, thanks for checking out the latest episode of Living the Next Chapter. I'm so happy to bring on these amazing authors and to share their stories, but I do have to confess I have a problem. And people who know me best would say, Dave, you have more than one problem. My problem is I have more episodes than I can release to you through my audio host, but I have a solution for you. Oh yes, head over to our YouTube channel, subscribe today to our YouTube channel, and you can get the most recent episode. I'm posting this episode today that I recorded today, and you can get it now on YouTube. Jump the line, move right past that big burly guy at the door. You can get right in and get the most recent episode of Living the Next Chapter on our YouTube channel. Make sure you go there. livingthenextchapter.com has all the information. And again, I want to thank you for making this podcast such a great joy to create. Catch you on the next one.
Hey there, fellow parent. If you're anything like me, balancing screen time for our kids is a constant struggle. That's why I want to share a little secret with you, KidsPod. It's this amazing app I found that's packed with podcasts just for kids. Imagine stories, learning, and fun, all without the screen. It's been a game changer in our house, keeping my kids engaged and their imaginations running wild. And guess what? It's completely free. So download KidsPod today. Trust me, it's a decision you won't regret.